folks, welcome into another special episode of I've Got a Theory with Henish. I've got a great guest on today, Bruno Lindia, coming to you from Canada.
Do we know where Canada is, Henish? Have you ever been up here?
Bruno, welcome to the show. You know, I've heard it's north of where we live.
Yeah.
But
A
I'm
little
not
north.
sure.
It's a little northern of North County, San Diego, for sure.
But 90% of Canadians live within 10 miles of the U.S. border.
That's right. And
Or maybe it's
part of
100
the
miles,
reason-
whatever it is. Yeah, it's
Yeah, I mean,
close.
it's pretty cold up there. Anywhere higher than that. So how are things in San Diego?
San Diego's been good. You know, they're claiming the weather's a little colder than normal, which means it's only going to get to 72 today.
That's not too bad. You know what? During the summer, it's pretty hot up here.
I bet.
It gets really, really hot, and then in the winter it gets warmer. I'm just doing that for the Tourism Association for Canada, so you guys come up here and freeze your you-know-what off. But no, it gets pretty cold up here most places. So what are we talking about? What's the theory today?
we got theories, and I like that you're Canadian and that you spend enough time in America where you know what happens here in the United States. So if you're familiar with it, but you're also a business professional, so you've got thoughts and we've got theories to discuss. So you mentioned something about why Americans really are. Go ahead. You can fill in the blanks there.
Well, the conspiracy theory is a fact. I think most Americans want to be a Canadian at certain points of their lives, and I think that's kind of what happened. You know, during the last election, we got so many calls about Americans wanting to move up here. And now, just in case people are listening, Henish and I joke around quite a bit. And so this isn't, it is a conspiracy theory, I know, but
it's not. I wouldn't say it's a conspiracy theory. This is just how people are type thing. And like I've said in the show, is that we just like to talk about any ideas. We don't have to say we necessarily believe them as religious doctrine, right? We're just talking about stuff. But the purpose of the show is to increase awareness and to have people think outside of the bounds of what they're comfortable with.
Oh, for sure. It's interesting, since the last, 8 years, 10 years, we've been brought up quite a bit as Canadian. Now all of a sudden I've become the Canadian ambassador. I can't believe this. We've been brought up, right? So, but what's interesting is that Canada's been brought up conveniently in some press conferences and everything like that. And it started off way back in, when Barack Obama took over the shop down there. And, they're talking about Obamacare and how they do it in Canada and how they do this and that. It was just really interesting, is that wow, it seems like they talk about us once in a while, but it'd be really good for them to get the facts straight too.
Okay, so tell me more. So your theory is Americans really want to be Canadians. What are some of the reasons why? You just mentioned healthcare, right? We've mentioned the president. Maybe elaborate a little bit more on those ideas.
Well, it's just more from the fact, and it's more tongue in cheek, because when they bring up Canada, they make it sound like everything, like healthcare. Every city block, every neighborhood block has their own hospital, right? And everybody, you can go to the 7-Eleven and get you can get ankle surgery, you can get an MRI.
So there's no one. So there's no one. Having to be burdened with potentially tens or hundreds of thousands of dollars of medical bills because they had an accident or something, or they had a.
No, I'm not saying it's exactly the same, but I think the way we're portrayed is that public health is everything's free, and everything is just at our fingertips. And I feel like getting my shoulder done, and I just walk into a hospital and it's like sign up over here, have a Diet Coke, and it's done. It doesn't work that way.
Right.
And our taxes are quite different, so we definitely pay for it. So
gotcha. So tell me a little bit more about that, because I don't know the specifics. Because I know a fair amount about how our budget works and how we break down what we spend and how we break down our taxes. And I would argue that because we spend a third of our $1.8 trillion in tax revenue, we spend over $600 billion a year on just defense industry.
Mm-hmm.
And then another $600 billion on Medicare and Social Security. And then the last $600 billion is just to pay for the interest and all the other stuff that we're spending.
I have a question for you. Why don't you call it offense? You spend all this money on offense instead of defense.
Well,
Like,
yeah, absolutely. You know, the thing is, like, this is another theory we could talk about, but in most government agencies, the letters stand for something more than just an article, right? The
yeah, there you
FBI is
go.
the Federal Bureau of Investigation, right?
Yeah, there you
So they don't
go.
call it the
Well, I'm just saying
FBOI.
if every country out there is nice and easygoing and everybody's got a, a Department of Defense, who's attacking?
No, no, no,
Right?
no.
Does
Yeah,
anybody
see,
have a minister of attack?
this is a theory, but I think the O in DOD actually stands for Department of Oil Defense. So we're
Yeah,
defending. So we're defending
absolutely.
our oil, but we don't really defend anything else. And our oil is in other countries, right?
That's
That's
right.
why we're
Well, in
concerned.
Canada,
Yeah,
we
that's why
got
we're
oil up
concerned
here.
about those countries when there's like human rights violations in the Middle East, but we don't really care about human rights violations in Africa because they
No,
haven't found the oil there yet.
no. Well, that is a conspiracy.
It's less a conspiracy than probably, you know, what they call it is strategic interests.
Right, right.
Yeah, yeah,
You know what? That comes to the next thing is about fake news. The new emerging theory that just because just because somebody in power doesn't agree with what's being presented, they call it fake news right away, right? So
yeah,
I have a bit
exactly
of
right.
a
Yeah, but there's real fake news that's just manufactured and it's patently false, and then
mhm.
there's the opinionated fake news, which is yeah, it's true, but I don't like it, so I'm going to say it's fake.
You know what? I'm Italian. I grew up Italian. Everything I heard was manufactured.
Yeah,
Okay, because somebody would walk in. My dad had a service station, and that was like the barber shop of back in the day. And people walk in and they go, why they are increasing the taxes because they're paying for back then our prime minister's father was running the country, right? Because they're paying for Trudeau's vacation to the Aga Khan's island. You move forward 40 years later, the kids going on vacations out there and we're paying for it, right?
yeah.
So back then we thought it was a conspiracy theory. It was called bullshit. And now we're like, hey, you know what? They must still have that cottage over there because they're still flying out there.
Where are they visiting?
So
I've never heard of this place. What's it called?
the Aga Khan, you know what the Aga Khan is?
I don't know where that is. What's that?
Aga Khan is he's basically a religious leader.
Oh,
Look it up. Yeah. So, anyways, you see, I know you're pretending because you really want to be Canadian. You know all about this stuff. You read into it.
no. So tell me more, because there's a few different aspects, right, of why an American would want to be a Canadian, and tell us why. Because there's some Americans are like, I don't want to be a Canadian. Why would I want to become a Canadian?
Oh, I'm not saying that Canadians. Sorry, I'm not saying that U.S. Americans are saying I want to be a Canadian. I'm just seeing signs in the last 20 years that I've come down there. I come down there all the time. That's where we met. And I'm just saying, boy, oh boy, they talk a lot about Canada. And I'm kind of like saying, I think you might have a little crush on us,
Yeah. I mean,
And
obviously, you guys get portrayed really well in the media and international
absolutely.
news, right? There seems to be nothing that ever really goes wrong in Canada.
No, there's no crime. Uh, we have no taxation.
Yep.
We have a few roads
Yeah.
that lead to nowhere.
Right.
But
sometimes you want to
other
go
than that,
nowhere.
What's that?
But sometimes you want to take a break and go nowhere.
Well, look at it now. Where's anybody going now?
These one of my friends was in yesterday. He runs an RV and adventure truck business, and he said his business has 5 times. I don't know what that number is, but 5 times what it was last year at the same time.
Well, because they're
Before COVID.
staycationing, right? Aren't they?
Well, they're going into the middle of nowhere, right? And they're going,
Mhm.
off the grid, not necessarily to a packed campground, but they can take an RV and park it anywhere in a park and call it a day. Or these adventure trucks that he's got where you can pop up a tent on the roof and then you're staying there off the ground and it's comfortable and there's water and you can go anywhere. It's like a Toyota pickup truck and you just drive it. And so he said that he's fully
you know what?
booked.
And I'm trying to be sarcastic. I know my friends are going to watch this and say, "Why didn't you stand up and defend for Canada?" I love Canada, #1 country, but I'm just saying that we're just joking around about Americans wanting to be here because, like I said, in the last 8-10 years, we conveniently pop up in the mainstream press to say, why don't we do it like Canada?
There's a lot to that, right? There's a lot to that, especially with the last presidential election. There was no shortage. There was probably millions, if not tens of millions of people that said they were going to leave to Canada if the president became elected, who did. And so I don't know how many of them executed, maybe 5%. Did you get
geez,
influx?
I don't even think that much. But
it's harder to move to a country than you expect, right? It's hard to just move to another country and get a job.
But you
right?
know,
'Cause-
one of the things about Canada is that typically there are differences between Canadians and Americans, and it's really all up here.
for sure.
Okay. And part of it is, if you would walk up here, like when we first met, I mean, there's no way you knew I was Canadian. I just walk up there, I'm a hell of a volleyball player.
I would say that you're friendlier than most regular Californians. You're
Why?
a
Because
little
I
more
didn't steal your
gregarious.
bike when you were walking down with those 12 bikes. I thought you were ripping off bikes. You remember that day?
Between me and my accomplice, we don't look like the typical bike thieves in
Well,
PB.
you're walking down PB with like 12 bikes. I'm like, what is this guy doing? Right? And it's
you know, there's not enough side hustles in the world that can pay for my kids. I need them
No,
all.
you're right, right. And you got a lovely family. But in all seriousness, we're talking about, like, there's only one road up here in Canada. I will tell you, especially where I live right now in Calgary, I would put our infrastructure against any place in North America. We've traveled quite a bit. But truthfully, like, I like to joke around about it because the more and more, like I said, I'm getting a lot more, really, that about Canada. For example, you had and I'm kind of plugging your original distressed seller series. And I came over to your shop, which I must say, online, I've rarely met somebody as accommodating, as nice as you have been to me. And I know we joke around quite a bit, but you invited me to this the seminar, and I show up, and I don't know if you remember this, but there was a guy that owned 300 million condos, and another guy that owned a hotel, and there was a young lady that came in, and I'm sure you remember. And I walk in, and they're talking hockey, and I'm like, and you say, hey, here's my Canadian friend. It's kind of like a poodle, and he goes, hey guys, this is my Canadian friend over here. Like, just you can pet him, and he won't bite because he's Canadian. And we get going on and on and on, and they were already talking ice hockey. Like, I know in Southern California they still call it ice hockey.
Yeah,
But
we have
they
to
go,
clarify.
the St. Louis Blues had just won the Stanley Cup. And I swear, I've not watched a lot of hockey in the last 20 years. And my family's more of a baseball family and football.
Yeah.
And these guys are rhyming off names. And I'm thinking, what has happened to Southern California? Bingo, they want to be Canadian. That's basically what it is, right? So
There's a lot of compelling points that are in favor of Canada, right? One, you've got the healthcare system, right? Two, you probably spend less money as a proportion of your GDP and your tax income on defense of whatever,
we
right?
don't spend any on defense.
Yeah. Three, you
We have a
probably spend more of it
rowboat.
on infrastructure, so everyone doesn't have to drive pickup trucks and SUVs to manage the potholes that we've got here in Southern California. Four, so it's not just healthcare, but how are the business opportunities and the regulations? Is it more accommodating, or is it a lot of red
Our
tape? Less
taxes,
red
I
tape?
mean, our taxes, I think, on businesses are, 99% of your income. Like, it is crazy.
Oh, it is?
But you have to think about it, like, good or bad. The population of Canada, I'll get it a little bit wrong, but, because I'm not a statistician, but give or take, the state of California has about equal or more people than the whole country of Canada. So
Right.
what do you guys got going down in California?
Close
Like
to 40 million,
million?
I think, here in Canada.
Yeah, that's basically our population. So we got to run right across the border, as long as the U.S. is, our border is just as long as yours,
Yeah.
right? And we got to figure out 40 million across 400 trillion miles of land. So our taxes have to be higher. I
As
think
a percentage.
Absolutely. So our
Well, what about, let's talk about education. How about like primary education?
we're way
and
smarter.
secondary? Yeah, and secondary education, right?
We're way
Because I know
smarter.
one of the problems that Canada has, and you tell me if this is accurate or not, is the brain drain.
I mean, Canadians leaving?
Yeah.
Well, you know what? Now, I mean, nobody's leaving now, but
But in prior years, it was a problem. People like got a job,
probably.
got recruited by someone in America, moving to America, and they seemed okay with that. I haven't gotten a lot of feedback from Canadians on how it went, but
Well, you know what? This is my opinion. Actually, I guess if you want to call it area of expertise, I've owned a search company for way too long, and I will tell you, it had become cyclical a little bit. It went and it came back because our dollar was at par and a little bit higher than yours for a very brief period of time. And then we stayed at par for a while.
Yeah.
Right. So it really didn't make sense for Canadians to go down to the US. Really, it had to be a real premium to go down there. So you have to think about it. You move from, say, a Calgary, like you have two major hubs in Canada where the real estate is a little out of control, and that's downtown Toronto and Vancouver, right?
Yeah.
And and so, I mean, you got to think twice moving from, say, Ottawa or Winnipeg or, other than the weather, and you move down to Southern California, like sticker shock like crazy. And so now our dollar is about 30, 35 points, depending on how the wind swings here. And I mean, absolutely big brain drain. And
then your education system's a little bit more affordable, right? If you go to college, I mean, in America, it's like you're paying $40,000 to $80,000 a year.
Oh yeah, well, try it. My son's supposed to be going down there, but the border's closed. And they don't mess around with the foreign students. But I think it's because, it's no different when students come up here. It's less expensive. But I mean, you go to an Ivy League school up here, it's pretty expensive for a foreign student, right? But
yeah,
like, for instance, what does San Diego State cost for in resident? It's only like 10, 12 grand a year, right?
Yeah, it sounds right. Maybe a little bit more, but yeah, it's pretty affordable. Yeah,
right. But then you go to
20,000 a year just in tuition, right?
Then you go to the Toreros, you go to the USD.
USD is like 40 to 50,000 a year,
and that's for in.
There's no in or out of state for private. It's just everyone pays the same.
No, but in country though, right?
Well, I don't know if there's an international rate. I think with private schools, everyone pays the same.
It is what it is. Oh,
yeah.
Okay.
At private schools, at public schools, you're right. There's in-state and then everyone else.
Right. I stay away from, and I'm now being serious. I like to joke around because you're a comfortable guy to shoot the shit with. But I'll tell you what, I stay away from our school systems better or worse, because it truly is a function around the whole education system and the encouraging factors around you. Because, just because we produce more doctors doesn't mean we have a better system or more motivated people. And,
no, I mean, it's just an efficiency thing, right? And I've had guests on that are higher ed doctorates and stuff and telling me and talking about the stuff. But the fact that we spend so much in our school infrastructure on fundraising and things like that make the school a lot more expensive for people because it's more attractive. It's kind of, it feeds into one another. Like, oh, I want to go to the school with the big fancy buildings and the extensive sports programs, but you pay a premium for that, right? Versus going to school in some place like Germany where you can get a college degree for $2,000 a year, but they still study in buildings that were built right after World War II, real super basic, nothing fancy, not exactly beautiful campuses with fountains and things like that. But it doesn't matter because they're getting comparable, if not better education at a much more affordable price. And they're not burdened with tens or hundreds of thousands of dollars in student debt for the next 30 years. Right? Yeah.
And the thing that I always bring up is that, and again, this is not, America's fault. This is the Canadians' fault or whoever else. So, my children like to play baseball. And I grew up, pretty much, very, very minimal things. We worked hard. We didn't come from an affluent family and stuff like that. And way back in the day, we're kind of like, wow, we're going to play baseball against an American team. And there's that image of everybody being better. Yeah, there's a population thing. You're 10 times bigger than Canada. But once you're on the field, and we joked around about volleyball, but I mean, there's volleyball players in Canada that can come down on, Sail Bay and compete. Right. You just have more of them, but it doesn't necessarily mean that one-on-one you're going to, there's an inferiority, I think, complex that used to happen, and more, more Canadians are coming down to the U.S. and more kids are playing baseball and football and baseball.
I mean, we see it at the Olympics, right? I mean, Canada does pretty good on the medal count relative to your population.
I guess sometimes, but you have the critical mass.
Yeah,
but it does not mean our best is that much worse than somebody else. So when I go down, when I bring my kids, and we've looked at several schools down there, and I'm looking at some junior colleges, and I'm seeing, the USCs and USDs, and we're, pretty connected with some of the folks at USD, taking nothing away. It's one of the nicest campuses.
I agree. Beautiful. That's why you pay a premium for it.
Yeah, you pay a premium. But at the same time, I think math is math.
Yeah.
And so you walk in there and you take general studies, or you take, I know they have they have a good law program there.
Business, real estate schools. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Right.
And you kind of say, well, it comes down to the student and the aptitude to learn. And we have some amazing schools. Like I know where we're at, University of Calgary is second to none, engineering and et cetera, et cetera. You have U of A, University of Alberta. McGill is an absolutely incredible school,
Yeah.
So, but I think it just comes down to, there's a lot of marketing that goes on to and I think your football and basketball TV deals really increase the price of the schools, because now it becomes a marketing thing. And
Oh,
it's
for
like,
sure. Yeah. I mean, I was just playing volleyball with like a high school volleyball star, and he's going to Stanford next year for javelin on the track team. So he got recruited
Yeah.
for that. But he was saying that even Stanford had to cut several of their sports programs for budget cuts this year.
Oh, because well, check this out. How's Alabama going to do? Check out their.
They're not dropping football. That's for sure.
Well, I'm just saying, what happens if they drop football for a couple of years?
Oh, no chance. That must make them $100 million a year.
100. Check the internet, never lies. But I'm just telling you, that's what keeps the schools going.
Right.
So now,
but there's very few sports programs collectively in the NCAA that generate money for their university, and it's mostly through paraphernalia, like clothes and stuff, right? So like I think Michigan, Alabama, North Carolina are a few, like there's only like 5 schools that actually make money from their sports program.
Yeah, and so if you take a look at it, now correct me if I'm wrong because I'm not that current on that anymore, but the Ivy League schools turned off sports this year.
That's what I was saying. Yeah, they've been cutting sport. I don't know if they did all of them, but like, for example, my guy that's going to Stanford, he's saying that they cut like 11 sports.
Yeah.
Including like field hockey and fencing and some of the, less popular sports. But regardless, they're still Olympic sports at the end of the day.
But what my point was, the Ivy League schools, like Harvard, unless they change, they don't give any sports scholarships.
I don't know about that. Yeah, maybe not.
Yeah, number one, they don't need to.
Yeah.
Right. Number two, their endowment is it's in the billions.
I think it's 60 billion is what I saw.
60 billion, and the next one is still in the billions, but it's chump change, right?
Correct. Yeah.
It's almost like they converted to Canadian. Like $1 American is minus
or converted to pesos. Well, so Bruno, let's wrap up this theory with the most important distinction between Canadians and Americans, and that's kind of anecdotal, but I think many people would agree that we have different attitude and personalities as well, right? There is this underlying stereotype that Canadians
we're nicer,
are very friendly, very apologetic, very cordial.
I'm sorry you feel that way.
Yeah, exactly right. Yeah. So talk to me about that. Is that any kind of draw you think for a potential American to want to come there? I'm like, I'm sick of Americans being rude and mean, and I'm going to Canada where everyone's nicer.
Well, what's interesting is that I've been asked that a couple of times. Not that I'm on these shows all the time. This is a lot of fun, but it reminds me of Bruce Springsteen had an unplugged series. It was actually really cool. It was given to me as a gift, and that comment makes it really. Your question makes me think of what Bruce Springsteen said once. So he's playing a song. He has to play the song by himself. Then he comments about what he meant by the song. Then he takes questions, and this poor guy in the audience goes, "Bruce, how do you feel about, always being referred to as the nice guy in rock and roll? Like you never have any scandals. You never, you're just a good guy." And Bruce kind of goes, "I don't know. I'm trying to be myself, and whatever." And then he goes, "No, but you're so nice." And he goes, "What do you want me to do? Come over and slap you in the face?" Right? So let's be clear. Like I think I call it level 1, 2, 3. I think level 1, 2, we're pretty tolerant. But level 3, remember, ice hockey, everybody fights. So they teach you how to fight early. So we don't pull it out.
But then after the fight, those same guys are going and getting beers for each other.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah,
absolutely.
I might not knock your teeth out, but then I'm like, let me get you a brew.
Yeah, and I get a kick out of baseball brawls. Because nothing happens. It's just an excuse for the bullpen guys to come out and
push each other a little bit. Yeah.
Well, they don't get into the game, right?
Yeah.
So, but I will tell you another little theory is that even your leader, Donald Trump, we were talking about this a couple of times, weren't we?
Yeah.
He was kind of busting Barack Obama's chops there about his birth certificate and stuff like that. Remember that?
Yeah.
we still talk about that once in a while, but I think he's moved on to different things. I think he's got different challenges on his plate.
Yeah, he's got
Scanning,
Biden and Hillary and fake news. Yeah, he's got other things
right?
he wants to attack. Yeah.
Well, here's something interesting about Canada and Trump. He was busting Barack Obama's chops about, you know, his citizenship. Well, in the early 1900s, late 1800s, his grandfather worked and lived in the Yukon and northern BC. So he ran a restaurant and kind of some funky business on the side there with the women and a bar. And he came up for the gold rush because
Aha.
he couldn't make it happen. Right now, I sound like I know the guy, but you know, and that's kind of funny is because Donald Trump is busting Canadians' balls right now. Sorry, can I say that?
Yeah.
You know, about NAFTA, about the North America trade deal, and he's saying, you know, everybody has been taking advantage of, you know, the U.S. for so many years. Donald, you're Canadian. What are
Yeah.
you doing, brother? You
Yeah.
know,
You could get dual citizenship if you wanted.
he was probably born up here. You
Could have
know,
been born
like,
there.
who
Right.
knows,
Yeah.
right? Only Melania knows. And so, anyways, the bottom line is that you know, even the president of the United States has ties to Canada,
Yeah.
right? Because that's some people say that's where the grandfather started making his money is through, you know, the gold rush here at the time.
That's weird. Why is that contentious? It's either he did or he didn't, right? Isn't there evidence whether he was there or not? So he probably did. It's not like anecdotal, like maybe there's a rumor, but he either did
No,
or didn't,
no,
right?
no, sorry. It's not the anecdotal part I'm saying is that I'm stretching it now to another conversation is that, you know, the big fight against illegal immigrants would be really interesting. I don't know the answer. Henish,
Yeah.
what do I look like? An immigration officer?
Yeah, no
I'm
doubt. Well,
Italian,
so
man. I'm always running.
let me ask you this on the personality side, because this is part of the theory that goes along with Americans want to be Canadians. I wonder if it's partly because in our government, in our system, in our media, in our marketing, in our consumerism and capitalism, there's a lot of making people feel bad or making people divided. And there you go.
You can't get more Canadian than
That's
that, even
true.
though an
But
American company owns it. Anyways, I don't even drink this
but
stuff.
but you know there's a lot of in America there's a lot of divide and conquer, right? There's a lot of you're this way or you're that way and there's nothing in between and you're one extreme and these other people are this other extreme and we have to fight each other and that's kind of how they've divided it up with the political process, right? To say that you're on one side or the other. And so there's a lot of animosity within the country unnecessarily, right? Even
Mhm.
today, it's hard for someone that's a Trump supporter to get along with someone that's a very anti-Trump.
You know what I learned with my travels down to the U.S. Now I'm going to be very serious about this. Is that trust me? You know what? We have the you know, the conservatives, the liberals. Now we have the NDP. Not now we have, but we have the NDP. Now you know in Quebec, because I grew up on the eastern part of Canada, and when I was a kid, nobody took what we called the separatists seriously. Now I'm talking about when I was a kid.
Yeah.
We kind of like, you know, there was the liberals and the PCs, and it was always a two-way fight, and the NDP would just show up once in a while, right? And that's what I remember. And we never really took them seriously. They're an official party. They got tons of seats in the House right now, right? And so what I'm saying is that the political game here is for keeps in Canada. There is a lot of divide and conquer up here too. But what I find is that what I learned through my trips to the U.S. is I keep my you know, I think in Canada we kind of we do joke around a little bit about politics, way more than in the U.S. Man, it is like I never make a comment about Donald Trump to a Democrat because it's not going to end up well. So I will share something with you, Anish, and you know, it was on the corner of Dawes, okay, and the street after Grand.
Hornblende?
Horn on the other side towards Sail Bay. Anyways,
Oh,
right around
okay.
there,
Yeah.
I was going for a
Thomas.
run.
Yeah.
There you go. That's right. And I was going for a run. It was my morning run. And this guy is probably about 55, 60, long hair, is going toe to toe with this lady who's about 60, 65. And they're yelling and screaming. So, you know, I put on the brakes. Like, hey, is that, you know, Canadian? Hey, can I help out here?
Yeah.
You know, and they said, no, it's just my neighbor. I'm like, yeah, are you okay, ma'am? He goes, yeah, and you know, effing this and effing that, and these Trump guys. And I'm like, you guys are neighbors, right? Is everything okay? He goes, yeah, we're just having an argument. And it was like, right. And that's what I learned is that,
Oh, you cut out for a second. You said it was, and then you cut out just at that key
oh, I'm
point.
sorry. They were neighbors.
Yeah.
And it probably started off with good morning.
Yep.
And then they went into a taboo area, and it wasn't good.
Yeah, it's too bad. I really think it's too bad that people can't have open discourse and just agree to disagree. If you have different opinions, great. Let me listen to them, and you can try to persuade me to them. But at the end of the, you have to be okay with the outcome that I might still disagree with you, but we could hopefully still get along with each other.
I'm going to tell you what's really funny is that what's interesting is that we spent a little bit of time in France. And I found, because I was coaching there, and
oh, I'm sorry, you cut out again. I'm sorry, Bruno. You said
okay.
I found that, and then you cut out.
Yeah.
Uh-oh, we're losing internet quality.
Yeah, that's okay. When we were in France,
yeah,
the U.S., when you're talking about it's too bad they can't have this discourse, the two things that I never spoke about. Now, I was on the sporting side, so I had to talk about our sport, but it was American League's football. Basically, nobody cares about it, right? Never, ever, ever bring up politics if you're on the wrong side, right? And I think I personally, I've never lived in too many other countries, but that was an eye opener for me because it was so blatant that either you're on this side or that side, and they were hard. You're not going to get a joke in there if you're on the wrong side. And the other one was really sports, like soccer. Oh my God, it's a religion. And I got to tell you that that's been my experience with the U.S. right now. Is just in the last maybe 15 years.
Is that what politics has become, kind of like religious type level of importance?
Yeah, I mean, I see most of my relatives are mostly in New York City, and I remember growing up, we'd have these dialogues, and my mom and dad would, say, so and so's in power, and you, kind of discourse, and I just found that, man, if you got no business talking about stuff and you're a foreigner, like when a real foreigner, like I'm Canadian, and I go down there and I'm visiting with you and you're having a hot debate about you guys are all Trump guys or you guys are all Democrats. I just found that, there's nothing positive that's going to come out of there except anger.
I know. Yeah. It's tough. I've seen too many of these things happen, and it's fine. It is what it is. Ideally we can get through it. But yeah, I don't like these things that are happening with the federal military influence in the cities to shut down these protesters. That seems problematic. And there's other issues.
It really is sad because a lot of people poke fun at Canadians. A lot of people poke fun at the Americans. At the end of the day, you cross the border on either side. I always say we're cousins, right? I mean, there's not that much of a difference in terms of how we speak. We put the A down, hey, A, whatever. We get joked around about saying about and whatever. But truthfully, come on. I mean, there's really you can't tell the difference who an American is and who a Canadian is.
No, yeah, it's funny because when you travel abroad, especially nowadays, yeah, people, if you say you're American in some countries, it's not necessarily a great thing to say, so like sometimes I'll delineate. I'm like, I'm from San Diego. They're like, oh, California.
That sounds different, right?
That sounds a little bit different than you're just from America, which sounds like.
Well, when we go to Italy, they kind of say, oh, there's the Americanos, but we're North Americans, right? And right. Maybe some people get all worked up about it and say, no, I'm Canadian. I get it.
Well, I mean, I think Canadians get
they can't tell the difference.
Well, in some places, I think that there's the stereotype that Canadians are less obnoxious travelers than Americans.
But that's until we open our mouths. That's what I'm trying to say. If we open our mouths, then you're going to say, yeah, oh, he sounds from like Texas, or he sounds from Newfoundland or Quebec. But you watch it, we walk into the airport, we just landed. There's no way they're going to tell. Right. The only thing out of our mouths is hello. I mean,
that's country neutral. Well, Bruno, cool. I appreciate you spending some time with us, and it was really insightful to learn.
And by the way, before we go, I know you're a distressed seller, right? Maybe our province is for sale, so you might want to take a look at that listing. So Alberta might be for sale. We got a lot of oil.
Okay.
And so check out we're not foreclosed yet.
That's a tough one, man. I really have a hard time supporting oil businesses. I just bought an electric car a few months ago. I've got solar on my house, so I get powered that way. And
more than oil, we have like ski mountains. We have, If the
There's some nice
economy keeps
natural
going like
resources.
this,
You
we'll
can do
have to
some
sell
off the
it.
grid living, right? Probably hunt out elk and caribou and live off of an animal.
There you go. There you go.
I
Yeah. No,
like
you
it.
know what? We're never for sale. We're just
Well,
joking.
Bruno, I appreciate your time. I'm really compelled to come visit Canada again soon. It's been far too long, and I look forward to seeing you again in person. Thanks for joining my show. We got another great episode of I've Got a Theory, and signing off for now. Thanks for joining, Bruno.
Thanks, Henish.